morning, Sri Lanka. How are you doing this morning? It's a beautiful Thursday morning out there, and I hope that you're not taking any single moment for granted this morning. I'm your host, Anu, and we have Jason on the show.
I'm half asleep.
Why? What happened?
Well, I didn't get my coffee today, unfortunately. So I'm trying my best. No, I'm joking. I'm having a great time.
You're never asleep in the morning.
No, I'm never. I'm an early bird as always. But
so, we were having a very interesting discussion yesterday.
Yes, I missed it, unfortunately.
On violence against women.
Right.
Gender-based violence, but we were highlighting violence against women, since we commemorated the International Day regarding violence against women
Which is on the 10th of December, if I'm correct.
Yeah, the campaign ends on the 10th of December, yes.
So it started off on the 25th.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's a 16-day annual event that happens.
And they had a very interesting walk called Win Back the Night in order to safeguard women during late night outings. You know, the streets are never safe for women. That's pretty common fact. Everybody knows about that. So, to further discuss that
our guests today are actually going to take a different aspect of what the topic we spoke about yesterday was.
Yes.
Our first guest obviously is Dr. Lakshman Senanayaka, who is a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
And we have Dr. Manoj Fernando, a lecturer at Rajaratha University of Sri Lanka, who made a long and tremendous drive to be here. Thank you so much
Thank you so much
for coming. All right, to kick things off, now violence against women, it was the subject. What we want to know is a different aspect of what this is. Now, I want to know what the services that the Ministry of Health, the government, is offering for the public, for example, for women.
The government of Sri Lanka have been well known for the services provided for women, not only for women after violence, from maternal health. Sri Lanka has one of the best indicators of the country.
Right.
I think Sri Lanka has taken an initiative of setting up programs to assist women who suffer from violence, the survivors. But of course, it is not only for women; it includes men as well.
Right.
Men can access the same services. I think Sri Lanka has sort of made a comprehensive effort to include services in different aspects of the health service itself.
Okay.
It's included in the health policy, which is an important step, I think, which some of the other countries have not taken up.
Yeah.
Right. The health policy itself, there are a number of major policies, including health master plan, includes this as a policy. There's a lot of capacity building of the staff. The Sri Lanka Health Service has two different major components. One is the curative service, that is the hospitals that are providing the services, as well as the field health services, which is working in the field, which essentially is a preventive and a public health service kind of thing. So the addressing the subject is included in both these areas.
Right.
In addition, of course, to provide services for the people who suffer from this, or suffer at the hands of men most of the time, there are certain service centers started in the hospitals. Of course, there are service centers provided or service desks provided by other NGOs and other organizations.
Right.
But in this instance, I think the effort of the Ministry of Health is to institutionalize this service within the existing health system, which I think, and it's accepted to be a fairly progressive action, because it is like accepting this as a part of routine health care.
Right.
So I think that is, a good sort of summarize briefly.
Let me ask you that. No, this is a very for the people that do not know about how to access these services. How do they go about this?
I think let me tell a little about the person who suffers from this.
Yeah.
Before that, I think
all right. Before getting to the whole keep in touch thing.
I mean, the person who suffers from this, mostly women, few men, of course, are most of the time suffer at home. They don't access services. I think that's the point I was trying to get at, I think, when you asked this. large number of women who suffer from this. They suffer at home, they go through this as part of their life. They are, I wouldn't call it they are in denial, they know what they are going through, but for various reasons they will stick to what they are going through and confine themselves, tolerate. More acceptance, I think, rather than even tolerate. For different reasons, if we can talk about it a little later. So they don't access services anyway.
Right.
But then there are some people who access services because they are either injured or they have other kinds of major issues that bring them to the hospital. Then of course there's a smaller group of people, because the injury is so bad, they will possibly go to the police and they access help via the police. So this is the way that normally people come. But I think what is important to recognize is, for the number of people who access services, there's a large number who are at home and who need our help and support. I think that is the point I am trying to make.
Right. Why do you think they're so reluctant of getting these services?
Because that the society, the way the society looks at it.
Right.
I think
we discussed it even yesterday when it comes to Sri Lanka, very especially. Culture and attitudes, social pressure, it's very striking when it comes to why women actually accepting what they're going through. So if you can elaborate on that, Doctor?
Yeah, but first of all, I would say it is not confined to Sri Lanka. I think in the sense that these attitudinal issues is more of a patriarchal issue.
Okay.
In societies where the society is patriarchal, they are the value, it is that is really there. It is more than the culture, attitudes, everything evolves out of this attitude of patriarchy. So the domestic violence is seen by the society as something quite different from violence from somebody else, from an outsider. Somebody gets beaten by an outsider. That person, I mean, it shocks everybody. Somebody get beaten by the husband is not shocked.
It's a personal matter.
So it is us.
As a woman, we should not talk about it.
It is eventually you, me, and us as the society, which really is the problem. So I wouldn't leave it to the culture. I will leave it to anything else. I will boil it back to us.
Abuse can not only be summarized into physical but also psychological between a spouse. And so, Dr. Fernando, can I ask you, how can, for example, let's just build a scenario here. A married couple, there's psychological abuse. How can we prevent that? How would they be able to prevent this from happening?
Now when you talk about gender-based violence, there are different impacts. One of the impact is the emotional impact. Whether it's physical damage or any sexual abuse, all these abuses will have a component of emotional impact. So the emotional impact is very severe. And most of the time we don't recognize it. That is the issue. So now, for example, now when we talk about the patients who usually visits our hospitals due to a physical injury, and earlier, not now actually, now the hospital system is trying to establish a service which mainly focusing on the emotional aspect as well, but earlier it was not like that. So we were mainly focusing on the prevailing problem, could be an injury, fracture, whatever, then we wanted to heal the fracture and send the patient away. But the whole society, not only the health sector, we didn't realize the most important aspect of this emotional impact. So now the emotional impact has different forms. Sometimes you don't see the particular woman is really depressed or whether the person is undergoing emotional damage. And the other side is actually the seriousness of emotional impact could be seriousness sometimes leads to suicide. Now you may have heard of recent stories like, the very recently we heard that one mother jumped into a train with 2 kids. So this is a result of the emotional impact of a violent family relationship. So what we have to realize is the emotional damage is so severe. Sometimes you don't see it. Sometimes you see it as a death, suicide. Sometimes people ruin the whole life
Right.
because of the emotional damage they're going through because of a relationship or else whatever the violence that they face.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really important to deal with it.
Yeah. So how would they deal with it? For example, if
How do they start dealing
how
with
would
it?
they? Yeah.
Now that depends on your adaptive capacity. Now
Okay.
each and every one of us, we have the adaptive capacity to deal with the negative emotions.
Yeah.
Whatever the problem that we face, the first thing that we undergo is the negative emotions.
Of course.
So we have the adaptive capacity developed throughout the life. So that adaptive capacity will decide how we are going to deal with that. Now there are women who can deal with most of the problems because they have a good adaptive capacity with these emotions. So if you don't have it, either you have to get the help from somebody else,
Right.
so
Professional,
like,
obviously.
definitely, or else you can go and talk to somebody else,
Yeah.
your family member, one of the friends, or else you need to go and meet a professional who are really qualified for that, and then get a help to deal with it.
Yeah.
So people sometimes deal with these emotions alone, or else they might go to friends. If not, they have to go and meet a professional counselor or somebody who's really qualified to do that job,
Yeah.
and then get the help.
When it comes to the emotional impact, I was just going through this in my head. Yesterday, we were speaking about bottling up negative emotions and not giving it out to society, putting it out. And that, like Doctor said before, it's part of being in a patriarchal society. And what have you seen example? What are the examples of women that you have seen who have been abused emotionally and affected emotionally for a number of years, maybe, and then the outcome has been really bad? Have you seen any examples of that? And what sort of environment does that sort of
Manifest itself. in,
Yeah.
To be honest.
how does that affect the family, and how does that happen in Sri Lanka usually?
Most women, they undergo these kind of problems. Now we have seen many women who don't expose themselves,
Yeah.
because you are not expected to talk about your problems. That is what usually that's the training that you got from our childhood. Right? So you are not expected to go and talk to somebody about your
Yeah.
problems
Yeah.
and tell that you are you have these feelings.
You deal with it by
Yeah,
yourself.
that's right. You have to
Okay.
suppress it. And
Right.
if you are a boy, your parents might tell you,
Man it up.
That's right. So you should not
Yeah.
cry.
True.
So these kind of things contribute to it. Now
Okay.
finally what you see is we try to suppress the feelings, but the healthy way of doing it is actually just bring it up
Yeah.
and share with somebody else and
Yes.
relieve yourself.
Yes.
But that is not happening. If that is not happening, what happens? They try to suppress it. That suppression is not healthy.
Yeah.
So it can cause various, sometimes bodily complaints. So that is called somatization. You might come out with various physical aches and pains. Or
Or like you said, suicide,
Definitely.
and
Definitely.
they are also prone to violate other people's rights.
of course.
Yeah.
Or else sometimes long-term depression and can end up as psychiatric
That's even worse.
diseases.
Yeah.
And they might, the whole family life and the social life is disrupted. So, and what about the well-being of the children?
Exactly.
Some mother who's really upset, the mothers who are really depressed.
Yeah.
She's not in a position to deal with
Take
the
care of
kids.
children, yeah.
So that-
and it's quite funny, because I think that the reason why women don't come out and expose themselves is because the well-being of their children, and most of them are afraid of divorce and separation and things like that. But like you said, it's a boomerang effect over there. So if you don't deal with it, you ultimately have to face the results, the negative results.